friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I have seen that Masha dropped her death card in her series of Top Tarot Trumps, and I wanted to join in before too much time elapsed. I've had a busy few weeks. What do I look for in a death card? Well, I like to be reminded of the fact that in the period of time that the tarot deck was created, death meant death. In a period of time when the cards were first created, the Black Death was a real thing. And since the cards themselves spoke of the virtues of living and the perils of life, death was a feature. So I do appreciate a gnarly death card. Now I have two from the early days, and then I have one modern one that's also gnarly, which I'll share. This one I took from the Visconti, the Personal Visconti by Benedetti. And you know, this one suggests, it's morbid, right? It's to me, it suggests starvation, you know, because we have a hollowed out stomach. This other one, also published by Benedetti, comes from his Charles VI Tarot. And I kind of like this one. I think it also may have influenced the decks from TDM, where we have body parts, you know, representations of people from various ranks, some from the elite, some from the clergy, some just regular folk. Not so much in this one, but this one shows that the most pious or the most high-ranking individuals, death gets them too. And we have a king here, secular. And he comes charging in, and without rhyme or reason, he'll mow you all down eventually. And death does get us all eventually, but in this period of time, it must have been a scary thing. You know, when the Black Plague came to your town, you just didn't know who it was going to mow down. And it didn't differentiate. Now, as for a modern day gnarly death card, I do appreciate this one by Cosmic Tarot. That one is creepy. I kind of like it. Now, keep in mind that in this day and age, when we have vaccinations to prevent people dying from simple illness, and we have medical procedures that would prevent people from dying from complications from injury, the death card doesn't have the import that it once had. We certainly wouldn't say, when someone came to us to say, oh, how's my job interview going to do? How is my job interview going to turn out? And you wouldn't say, oh my gosh, be careful, you're going to die on the way. You know, you would never say that, right? So it is important to have greater understanding in the relevance of today, unless there are other cards that suggest somebody should be careful. But you do want to interpret the cards to answer the question. And if this was the only card, and it was representing, if this was the only card that was of concern, and it was, you know, saying how will that interview go? You know, you might suggest, you know, it'll end your search. It could, depending on the other cards. This will end your search. This will be the job, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Or, depending on other cards, you could say, well, I don't think it'll advance. So it all depends on what else you see and how it strikes you at the time. Now, there are two other cards that I do want to mention, and they're modern day cards. This one is from the Anna.K Tarot. And I chose this one because in my younger days, if death, God forbid, had ever come to me at that point, and he looked like that, I might have gone. I might have gone with him. I never forgot this death card, you know, from seeing it. I always kind of remembered it because he's kind of sexy. But now I'm too old to be impressed by, you know, young men's good looks. He's got to flash something else to impress me. And then here's in the category, and this one will always have a soft spot in my heart. You have to know your audience. Certainly if you're doing readings for people and they're asking about their health, or they're asking for their well-being, or you're reading cards for elderly people, you're not going to want to, see cards like this pop up, because whether or not it represents death, right? When they see this, that's all they need to see. And they'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to die. For this reason, I want to mention the Connolly Tarot deck. And it's called Transition. And no one at all would ever feel threatened or intimidated by this card. Yeah, right? And for those of you who've been with me long enough, and you've seen a few of my videos where I've talked about this, I've spoken on this death card, was when my own mother was dying, and I took I don't know if this was the only tarot deck I took with me. And because if she wanted a tarot reading, there was no way I wanted a card like this or a card like this to pop up. There's no way. So I made sure I chose a card that didn't have the word death on it, and that if she'd had seen it, she would never have identified it as death. Okay? So I think I probably only took this card to her house. And we played with the tarot cards, and nothing, it never popped up. But the day after my mother died, I shuffled and mixed the cards, and I was alone in the house with my one brother. And everybody left, my other siblings left the house, my children left, and I was there alone in her home with my one brother and really feeling it. And I mixed and handled the cards, and I put it out to the universe, and I said, dear universe, explain in one card what my mother is experiencing right now. And this card popped up, and it made a difference to me that it was called Transition, because it really meant to me that she was transitioning. I might not have thought of that if this card popped up. If this card popped up, I would say, oh yeah, she's dead. Oh yeah, okay, she's dead. No, she's done. But with this card, it really had a more positive feel, that she was literally transitioning. She was adjusting to a new place. And it was a great comfort to see this card. So as much as I appreciate a gnarly death card, or even a sexy death card, there's something to be said about knowing your audience and what would be appropriate. And the person who I spared was not my mother. The person I spared was myself with this card. Obviously, also, if you're reading for children, or if not that you would read cards for children, but if you are in the process of teaching a child tarot, the Connolly deck might not be a bad deck to choose. It is Rider-Waite-Smith, so you won't be getting the TDM. But if you're just looking to expose children to tarot in the first place, the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition isn't bad, because every picture tells a story, and it's not bad to get their feet wet in that way. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, do no harm. Be good to yourselves, be good to other people.